Robert Meredith Willson was an American composer, songwriter, flutist, conductor and playwright, best known for writing the book, music and lyrics for the hit Broadway musical The Music Man. He wrote 3 other Broadway musicals, composed symphonies and popular songs, and his film scores were twice nominated for Academy Awards. Early life: Willson was born in Mason City, Iowa, to John David Willson and Rosalie Reiniger Willson, and he had a brother 2 years his senior, John Cedric, and a sister 12 years his senior, the children's author, Dixie Willson. He attended Frank Damrosch's Institute of Musical Art in New York City. He married his high school sweetheart, Elizabeth Peggy Willson, on August 29, 1920. A flute and piccolo player, Willson was a member of John Philip Sousa's band, and the New York Philharmonic Orchestra under Arturo Toscanini. Willson then moved to San Francisco, California, as the concert director for radio station KFRC, and then as a musical director for the NBC radio network in Hollywood. His work in films included composing the score for Charlie Chaplin's The Great Dictator, and arranging music for the score of William Wyler's The Little Foxes. During World War II, he worked for the United States Armed Forces Radio Service. His work with the AFRS teamed him with George Burns, Gracie Allen and Bill Goodwin. He would work with all 3 as the band leader, and a regular character, on the Burns and Allen radio program. He played a shy man, always trying to get advice on women. His character was Dizzy as well, basically a male version of Gracie Allen's character. In 1942, Willson had his own program on NBC. Meredith Willson's music was a summer replacement for Fibber McGee and Molly. Sparkle Time, which ran on CBS in 1946-47, was Willson's first full-season radio program. Returning to network radio after WWII, he created the Talking People, a choral group that spoke in unison while delivering radio commercials. He also became the musical director for The Big Show, a prestigious comedy variety program hosted by actress Tallulah Bankhead and featuring some of the world's most respected entertainers. Willson himself became part of one of the show's very few running gags, beginning replies to Bankhead's comments or questions with, "Well, sir, Miss Bankhead." Willson wrote the song, "May the Good Lord Bless and Keep You" for the show. Bankhead spoke the lyrics over the music at the end of each show. He also worked on Jack Benny's radio program, and hosted his own program in 1949. For a few years in the early 1950s, Willson was a regular panelist on the Goodson Todman game show The Name's the Same. In 1950, Willson served as musical director for the California Story, the Golden State Centennial production at the Hollywood Bowl. Through working on this production, Willson met writer Franklin Lacey, who proved instrumental in developing the storyline for a musical Willson had been working on, soon to be known as The Music Man. The California Story spectacular was followed by 2 more state centennial collaborations with stage director Vladimir Rosing, the Oregon Story in 1959 and the Kansas Story in 1961. Broadway. Willson's most famous work, The Music Man, premiered on Broadway in 1957, and was adapted twice for film. He referred to the show as an Iowan's attempt to pay tribute to his home state. It took Willson some 8 years and 30 revisions to complete the musical, for which he wrote more than 40 songs. The cast recording of The Music Man won the first Grammy Award for Best Original Cast Album. In 1959, Willson and his wife Renee recorded an album called "And Then I Wrote the Music Man," in which they review the history of, and sing songs from, the show. In 2010, Brian Darcy James and Kelly O'Hara played Willson and Renee in an off-Broadway entertainment based on this album. His second musical, The Unsinkable Molly Brown, ran on Broadway for 532 performances from 1960 to 1962 and was made into a 1964 motion picture starring Debbie Reynolds. His third Broadway musical was an adaptation of the film Miracle on 34th Street, called Here's Love. His fourth, last, and least successful musical was 1491, which told the story of Columbus's attempts to finance his famous voyage. It was produced by the Los Angeles Civic Light Opera Association in 1969, but was never produced on Broadway. Other works. Classical music. His Symphony No. 1 in F minor, a Symphony of San Francisco, and his Symphony No. 2 in E minor, Missions of California, were recorded in 1999, by William T. Stromberg conducting the Moscow State Symphony Orchestra. Other symphonic works include O. McIntyre Suite, symphonic variations on an American theme and anthem, the symphonic poem Jervis Bay, and Ask Not, which incorporates quotations from John F. Kennedy's inaugural address. In tribute to the Idlewild School of Music and the Arts, he composed an Idlewild for orchestra, choir, vocal solo and alphorn. Willson's chamber music also includes a suite for flute. Television specials. In 1964, Meredith Willson produced 3 original summer variety specials for CBS under the title Texaco Star Parade. The first special premiered on June 5, 1964 and starred Willson and his wife, Renai. It featured guest stars Katerina Valent and Sergio Franchi, and featured a production number with Willson leading 4 military bands composed of 500 California high school band members. The second special starred Debbie Reynolds singing selections she had introduced from Wilson's production, The Unsinkable Molly Brown. Willson and Renai hosted the third special in July, and it featured a Willson production number with 1,000 Marine Corps volunteers from Camp Pendleton. Guest stars featured were Vicky Carr, Jack Jones, and Joe and Eddie. Popular songs. Willson penned a number of very well-known songs, such as You and I, which was a number 1 for Glenn Miller in 1941 on the Billboard charts. It was also recorded by Bing Crosby, and by Tommy Dorsey with Frank Sinatra on vocals. 3 songs from The Music Man have become American standards, 76 Trombones, Gary Indiana, and Till There Was You. The last was recorded by the Beatles for their albums With the Beatles and Meet the Beatles. Other popular songs composed by Willson include It's Beginning to Look a Lot Like Christmas, May the Good Lord Bless and Keep You, and I See the Moon. He wrote the University of Iowa's fight song Iowa Fight Song, and Iowa State University's For I For S Forever. He also wrote the fight song for his hometown high school Mason City, Go. He honored the Salvation Army with a musical tribute, Banners and Bonnets. An oddity in Wilson's body of work is Chicken Fat, written in 1962. In school gymnasiums across the nation, this was the theme song for President John F. Kennedy's youth fitness program. It was time to get the country's youth into shape, and Wilson's song had youngsters moving through basic exercises at a frenetic pace: push-ups, sit-ups, jumping jacks, torso twists, running in place, pogo springs, and plenty of marching. With an energetic lead vocal by Robert Preston, orchestral marching band, and full chorus, it was likely recorded during sessions for the Music Man film. 2 versions of the song exist, a 3-minute, radio-friendly length, and a longer, 6-minute version for use in the gymnasium. In 2014, Chicken Fat was used in a television commercial for the iPhone 5S. In 1974 he offered a marching song, Rep Inflation Now, to the Ford administration, but it was not used. Autobiography. Willson wrote 3 autobiographies, and There I Stood with My Piccolo, Eggs I Have Laid and But He Doesn't Know the Territory. Personal life. Willson was married 3 times. After divorcing first wife Elizabeth, he married Relina Renai Zarova on March 13, 1948. Following her December 6, 1966 death, he married Rosemary Sullivan in February 1968. He lived for years in the Mandeville Canyon section of Brentwood, California, and was fondly remembered by friends and neighbors as a warm and gregarious host who loved nothing more than to play the piano and sing at parties. He often gave out autographed copies of his record album, Meredith Willson Sings Songs from the Music Man. In 1982, both he and Rosemary appeared in the audience of the Lawrence Welk Show. Willson returned several times to his hometown for the North Iowa Band Festival, an annual event celebrating music with a special emphasis on marching bands. Mason City was the site of the 1962 premiere of the motion picture The Music Man, hosted by Iowa Governor Norman Abed, which was timed to coincide with the festival. Willson, like his character Harold Hill, led the big parade through the town, and the event included special appearances by stars of the film Shirley Jones and Robert Preston. The master of ceremonies was W. Earl Hall, editor of the Mason City Globe-Gazette, statewide radio personality and friend of many decades. Willson was a member of the National Honorary Band fraternity, Kappa Kappa Psi. From about 1948 to the end of his life he was an active member, a deacon, of Westwood Hills Congregational Church in Los Angeles. He donated a stained glass window, known as the Music Man window, above the pew where he would sit, which represented various musical instruments. He drove a Rolls-Royce to church. He composed hymns for the church, including Anthem of the Atomic Age in 1953. He and the pastor, who was also from northeastern Iowa, were very close friends. Willson died of heart failure in 1984 at the age of 82. He is buried at the Elmwood St. Joseph Cemetery in Mason City, Iowa. Legacy. On June 23, 1987, Meredith Willson was presented, posthumously, with the Presidential Medal of Freedom by President Ronald Reagan. In 1999, the United States Postal Service issued a postage stamp featuring Meredith Willson. Wilson's boyhood home in Mason City, Iowa, is part of the Music Man Square, which opened in the spring of 2002. His widow, Rosemary, was a very generous donor to the square. His alma mater, the Juilliard School, dedicated its first and only residence hall to Willson in 2005. Sir Paul McCartney, through his MPL Communications Company, controls the rights to Wilson's song catalogue. Wilson's papers can be found at the Michael Feinstein Great American Songbook Initiative. A finding aid of the collection can be accessed here. Bibliography: Willson, Meredith. And There I Stood with My Piccolo. Minneapolis. University of Minnesota Press, 1948, 2009. Willson, Meredith. Eggs I Have Laid, Holt, 1955. Willson, Meredith. But He Doesn't Know the Territory. Minneapolis. University of Minnesota Press, 1959, 2009. Chronicles the Making of the Music Man. Notes. References: Skipper, John C., Meredith Willson, The Unsinkable Music Man. Sarvis Pub Company, ISBN 1-8828810-78-3, Oates, Bill, Meredith Willson. America's Music Man, Author House, ISBN 978-1-4208-3525-0. External links: Meredith Willson at the Internet Movie Database, Meredith Willson at the Internet Broadway Database, NAXOS listing, MTI Shows Biography, Songwriters Hall of Fame listing, Des Moines Register bio, Remarks at the Presentation Ceremony for the Presidential Medal of Freedom, June 23, 1987, University of Iowa Special Collections, Papers of W. Earl Hall.